Meghan Markle fans are already asking for a refund.
Meghan Markle's best life retreat has become the worst nightmare for the women who paid to be there. And now they want their money back. Guests are furious, publicly calling out Meghan and demanding refunds of up to $2,000 after feeling completely misled by what was promised versus what was actually delivered. Meghan has already left Australia, but the backlash she left behind? That's not going anywhere. She made the trip mostly to attend a retreat hosted by Gemma O'Neill, alongside what was described as charity work. But many people believe the real reason was far less noble: selling merchandise and doing some serious damage control on a public image that's been taking hits lately. The retreat itself was supposed to be sold out. That's what her team said. But when the doors opened, only part of the hall was filled. The numbers simply didn't add up, and even the women who did show up are now demanding refunds. Here's the part that really has people heated. Meghan reportedly spent just 30 minutes at an event that was advertised as a 3-day retreat. This wasn't sold as a quick pop-in. It was promoted as a full weekend experience where women could genuinely connect with Meghan, ask her questions, and spend real time together. People bought expensive tickets based on that promise. She showed up, spoke briefly, answered a handful of questions, and within 30 minutes, she was already heading to her car. Shock and frustration spread across the room fast. Many attendees could not believe what they were seeing unfold right in front of them. For a lot of these women, the question hit immediately. Was any of this actually worth $2,000 of hard-earned money? Now, Meghan did attend a gala dinner that same trip, staying for roughly 2 hours. But even then, guests said the interaction felt extremely surface level and limited. What people paid for was continuous, meaningful access throughout an entire weekend retreat, not a brief appearance and a quick exit. The anger doesn't stop there. The event had been advertised online as a full girls' weekend.
Here, and there's some guests of that retreat who are now wanting refunds after they paid around $2,000 for tickets.
Networking, pool time, good food, social bonding, and personal time with Meghan herself. People who had followed and supported her for years were genuinely excited at the chance to finally meet her, share their stories, and feel that real connection they had been promised. Instead, attendees found themselves mostly interacting with complete strangers they had never met. While paying premium prices for the privilege, confusion spread quickly about how the schedule even worked, and people started asking how they could actually get access to Meghan. Once she was gone, complaints hit the front desk almost instantly. Guest after guest expressed the same frustration. What they received looked nothing like what had been advertised. On top of everything else, attendees expected to walk away with photos and memories from this expensive weekend, but their phones were taken away at the door. Guests had to pass through metal detectors, and personal cameras were completely banned inside. People were left asking a very reasonable question. How do you spend up to $2,000 on an experience and not even get to document it? Many observers pointed out that this could have been Meghan's perfect moment to genuinely connect with the women who showed up and supported her. That moment never came. The financial frustration ran deep. Early bird tickets started around $1,900, and VIP packages pushed past $2,200, with promises of closer seating and group photo opportunities with Meghan. Many attendees say those promises were never delivered. The experience they got looked nothing like the one they paid for, even after Meghan had already left Australia. Guests were demanding full refunds, saying what was sold to them as their best life experience felt more like their worst. The fallout hit the organizers hard, too. The venue held space for around 300 people, but large sections sat completely empty. Tickets were still being sold at the entrance on the day of the event, with discounts reportedly being offered to
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the pay-per-view royals, landed in Australia today in a fake royal tour that they'll use to make money.
Because fans paid thousands of dollars. Meghan, they say, only stayed for 30 minutes. There are some discrepancies between 2 hours and 30 minutes. The fact is that she did not stay long enough to warrant the amount of money that people paid to see her. And now, people, they are calling for refunds.
Pull in last-minute attendees. Some guests said it felt like organizers were scrambling to fill seats. Shared rooms originally planned for guests were quietly converted into solo rooms once it became clear the expected crowd wasn't showing up, a telling sign the event never reached the numbers that were hyped. Observers also noticed that Meghan seemed to have one eye on the clock the entire time. Why stay longer at a half-empty room when there are other appearances lined up? For many guests, The whole thing felt like a one-sided transaction. Several later admitted they wished they had just put the money on a bet instead. At least then, they would have known the odds going in. Many felt that instead of staying to build real connections, Meghan had other priorities. She is reportedly linked to an AI fashion shopping platform called One-Off, and the outfits she wore throughout her Australian appearances were listed online through affiliate links, letting fans purchase similar looks directly. And while all that chaos was going down inside the venue, something was happening outside that made the whole situation even worse. Shortly after leaving the retreat, Meghan and Prince Harry were photographed smiling and laughing in the stands at Allianz Stadium, watching a rugby match. That single image broke the internet. Women who had paid nearly $2,000 to spend time with Meghan were still sitting inside a half-empty retreat hall, and she was out at a sports game having the time of her life. The math was not mathing, and people online were absolutely done. One eyewitness reportedly said Meghan just departed the Intercontinental Coogee Beach en route to Allianz Stadium, accompanied by security, adding that many women are not happy. That's putting it lightly. When the woman you paid top dollar to spend a weekend with ditches the event and shows up at a packed rugby stadium hours later, that's not a scheduling conflict. That's a statement. But here's where it gets even more layered.
Meghan Markle's $3,000 a head women's retreat in Sydney has failed to sell out. The Duchess of Sussex making a fleeting appearance at the venue last night. A standard $2,699 ticket, buying the guests 2 nights in a shared room at Coogee's 5-star Intercontinental Hotel in Sydney's eastern suburbs, plus food and drink, and a conversation with Miss Markle.
Yeah. The retreat didn't even stop after Meghan left. The full 3-day program kept going through the weekend without her. Yoga sessions, sound healing, meditation, cocktails, a disco night, all of it continued as if nothing happened. And while that sounds like a full schedule on paper, attendees weren't there for yoga, they were there for Meghan. Once she was gone, the whole thing felt hollow. You don't sell a weekend around a headline act and then expect people to be satisfied when the headline act walks out after 30 minutes. Now let's talk about a story that didn't get enough attention. Before the event even happened, a journalist named Ariana Pezeshki had already purchased her ticket, nearly $3,000 worth, to attend the retreat as a regular paying guest. She wasn't going as press. She wasn't there to cover the event. She booked it personally because she was genuinely excited to attend. But when organizers found out she worked in media, they cut her off fast. She received a phone call she missed, followed by an email that she described as blindsiding her. The organizers told her that because the retreat was a closed-door experience, they could no longer offer her access. Her money was refunded, but she was out. No explanation, no warning up front, and no rule about media workers disclosed.
People are saying, well, she spent about 2 hours at the gala dinner, the retreat, but everyone's saying, no, the appearance felt significantly shorter, saying it was only 30 minutes, fueling the backlash over what they viewed as a mismatch between cost, access, and expectations. It also didn't sell out. That's important to know. We didn't get to see how big that room was because there was no cameras allowed. Apparently, though, it struggled to fill its 300 available spots
anywhere during the booking process. She later wrote publicly that she felt less a supported woman and more a screened liability. And honestly, that quote says everything. This was supposed to be a women's empowerment weekend, and one of its paying supporters got treated like a security threat for simply having a job in media. The irony was not lost on anyone, and the control didn't stop there. Phones were taken at the door. Metal detectors were set up. No cameras were allowed inside. The whole operation was locked down tighter than most high-security events, all for what was being sold as a casual wellness retreat. Some guests later questioned whether all of that secrecy was really about safety or whether it was about making sure nothing unflattering got filmed and leaked online. When you ban cameras from an empowerment weekend, people start asking what exactly needed to be hidden. Now, here's the part that really connects the dots for a lot of observers. While all of this was playing out, it came to light that Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, had already quietly secured 12 trademarks in Australia, covering everything from skincare and candles to yoga gear, jewelry, workshops, and even hospitality services. Those filings were submitted back in 2024 and approved well before this trip. So critics were quick to point out that this so-called wellness retreat wasn't just a one-off appearance. It looked like the opening move in a much bigger business play on Australian soil, a celebrity PR. Specialists described the timing as strategic, noting that an in-person visit like this could generate buzz and introduce the brand to a new audience at a key moment. but many Australians didn't see it that way.
It was billed as a women's retreat weekend where you'll meet other women and have so many activities and drink by the pool and spend time with the Duchess of Sussex. Well, turns out she showed up for about 30 minutes and then she split immediately. And what the fans were left with for this women's retreat, we're reminded, it's important we remind, they were then shacked up with strangers. They paid thousands of dollars for this dumb thing. And needless to say, a lot of them are now furious, so much so that they're demanding
a Change.org petition calling for Australians not to foot the bill for security and logistics costs during the trip crossed 10,000 signatures. People were frustrated that a privately funded visit was still drawing on public resources, and the retreat controversy only added more heat to an already burning situation. Yahoo! Some observers were also drawing attention to separate reporting, suggesting that the retreat may have had a connection to a new Soho House venue being developed in Sydney. One of the Her Best Life hosts had reportedly been linked to the Soho House Sydney Advisory Committee, and some people online were connecting those dots and asking whether the entire event also served as quiet promotion for the private members club. Nothing was officially confirmed, but the speculation spread fast. At this point, it wasn't just regular attendees who were frustrated. The backlash had grown wide enough that public commentators, journalists, and everyday Australians were all piling on. The phrase being thrown around everywhere was faux royal tour, because the trip blended private meetings, business stops, and public appearances, all while the Sussex title was still being used in a Commonwealth country. Critics said it read less like genuine philanthropy and more like a brand expansion with a royal wrapper on top. For the women who showed up to that retreat expecting a meaningful weekend, a real connection, real conversations, real access, the whole thing ended up feeling like a transaction that was designed to look like something deeper than it actually was. They paid premium prices for proximity, and what they got was a brief...
I just find that so gross. These people, their phones were taken. They were put through with metal detector security. If there was ever a time for Meghan to walk around and spend at least another hour or two going around tables, engaging with the plebs, it's now. If you want to be able to do this again and sell tickets and make yourself an appearance, well, you got to actually devote a couple more hours to the everyday people and go around and be part of it. But she couldn't. She didn't have any time for her fans. And I find that despicable.
Tightly managed moment that was over before it really began. The rugby stadium photos sealed it. The trademark filings confirmed it. And the front desk complaints said it out loud. This was not what was advertised. And if you thought the retreat drama was bad enough, the rest of the Australia trip brought its own wave of chaos that had people talking for days, because the controversy didn't begin and end at the Intercontinental. It followed Meghan and Harry through every stop of their 4-day visit, and by the time they boarded their flight home, the damage was already done. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers don't lie. A poll conducted by Roy Morgan, one of Australia's most respected independent research firms, surveyed over 1,700 Australians after the visit wrapped up. The results were brutal. A massive 81% of those polled said the trip did not improve their view of the couple at all. Only 19% said yes. When asked whether the tour showed a more positive side of Meghan, 75% said no. And when it came to whether the trip might help repair Harry's relationship with King Charles, a staggering 87% said it would do absolutely nothing. Those are not the numbers of a successful image comeback tour. That's a wall. An insider described the situation plainly, saying the trip was widely covered and clearly reached a large audience, but that exposure did not translate into greater support. Instead, sources say it simply reinforced what most people already believed going in, and what made things worse.
Apparently she left her $3,000 per head retreat to go watch some rugby game or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but the people who were dumb enough to pay for this retreat are a bit upset.
The way the whole trip was packaged, part charity work, part commercial venture, left people feeling like they couldn't figure out what Harry and Meghan were actually there to do. A palace source described it as a genuine concern behind palace doors, saying it was one of the clearest signs yet that the couple was actively using their royal connections in a commercial setting. That tension, royal title on one hand, business deals on the other, is exactly what critics had been pointing to for years, and the Australia trip put it on full display for the entire world to see. Now here's where it gets really uncomfortable. On the final day of the trip, Meghan and Harry visited Bondi Beach to meet survivors and first responders connected to a tragic terror incident that took place there in December 2025, which resulted in 15 lives lost. It was a deeply emotional and respectful visit by all accounts. The couple spent real time with those affected, and at least one first responder publicly said the visit was a mark of respect and definitely appreciated. So far, so good. Right? Wrong. Because within a very short time after that visit, photos of the outfit Meghan wore that day appeared on the One-Off platform, the AI fashion site she is both an investor in and a commission earner from, with links letting people shop her exact look: a $420 striped shirt, a $159 pair of jeans, an $895 cashmere sweater, all listed, all shoppable, all tied to images from one of the most grief-filled stops of the entire trip. The internet erupted. One commentator went on record calling it sickening and said that trying to turn outfits worn at such a tragic location into a retail opportunity would offend any right-minded person. A former Buckingham Palace staff member reportedly described the move as not only disrespectful.
Well, it's actually not sold out, according to Radar Online. They're claiming that organisers are actually reaching out to prospective attendees and even offering them a chance to bring a friend. Seems like desperation.
But unbelievably short-sighted. People online were absolutely stunned. One commentator blasted it directly, saying, "Meghan clutched the hands of the victims," and within minutes, those outfits were available on this app, adding that she was using these victims to sell clothing for a commission. Strong words, but that was the energy across the board. Once the backlash hit a boiling point, the platform quietly swapped out the image. The photo of Meghan walking alongside first responders at the scene was replaced with a different image of her stepping out of a Range Rover earlier that same day, wearing the identical outfit but in a completely different setting. No public explanation, no apology, just a silent swap in hope that people would move on. They didn't. It's also worth noting that this wasn't an isolated moment. Throughout the entire Australia trip, Meghan's outfits were being uploaded to One-Off almost in real time. From hospital visits to charity stops to public appearances, the total value of the wardrobe featured on the platform from just those 4 days was estimated to be close to $100,000. One dress she wore while visiting a women's homeless shelter was listed at over $1,700. Critics said it was incongruous, and that's putting it politely. The idea of monetizing what were supposed to be charitable, meaningful engagements sat very badly with a lot of people. Then there was the "Call Me Meg" moment, which didn't go over the way it was probably intended. During the trip, Meghan asked people to skip the formalities and simply call her Meg. To some, it read as warm and down to earth. But to a large chunk of observers, it landed as staged. A source described it as a carefully curated attempt to project approachability that was clashing directly with the well-known reality of her lifestyle, standards.
She probably did made her bank. She left. She gets to blame it on the venue. Like, hey, the event said what it was. I didn't promise you anything. They did. If you got a problem, go get the money from them. I already got my money. Deuces. That's what she's probably thinking. And in a way, it's like, well, it is what it is.
And level of wealth. The disconnect between "Just Call Me Meg" and charging nearly $3,200 for a brief wellness appearance was not lost on anyone paying attention. By the time the dust settled, the verdict from the Australian public was clear. Despite all the coverage, all the outfits, all the appearances, and all the carefully managed moments, the trip moved almost no one. People who already liked the couple still liked them. People who didn't still didn't. And those sitting in the middle, the numbers suggest most of them didn't budge either. For a tour that was clearly designed to shift the narrative, it ended up doing the opposite and locking it in even harder than before. And because of all this, many attendees walked away completely convinced that the whole trip was never really about connecting with them. It was about promotion, plain and simple. The more people pieced it together, the angrier they got. And the frustration didn't just come from what happened inside that retreat hall. It came from the full picture. Everything that unfolded across 4 days in Australia that, when lined up side by side, told a very different story than the one being sold. Let's go back to the retreat for a second, because that 30-minute appearance deserves to be talked about one more time. These were women who cleared their schedules, bought plane tickets in some cases, booked time off work, and spent nearly $2,000, some even more, based on the promise of a meaningful, full weekend experience. They weren't buying a meet and greet. They were sold a retreat, a 3-day immersive experience built around real access, real conversation, and real connection with Meghan. What they got was a brief appearance, a handful of questions, and then an empty seat where the guest of honor used to be. That kind of letdown doesn't just sting, it burns. And then
Meghan, I don't know if you were aware that she's involved with this app that you can, every outfit that she wore while she was here in Australia, it was immediately posted on this app and you can shop the look. So
does she get a share of that perhaps?
She does.
Oh, excellent. That's
and I don't know
wonderful
if she's an
plan.
investor in the company, but she definitely gets a cut of whatever sells. But
while those women were still sitting in a half-filled venue trying to figure out what just happened, photos hit the internet of Meghan and Harry laughing in the stands at a rugby match that same evening. That image, more than anything else, became the symbol of the entire controversy. It wasn't just about the 30 minutes anymore, it was about priorities. It was about what she chose to do with her time the moment she walked out of that room. When the women who paid thousands to spend a weekend with you are still inside the building, and you're already at a stadium, that tells people everything they need to know. But the retreat was just the opening chapter, because as the days went on and more details came out about how the entire Australia trip had been structured, people started realizing the retreat wasn't an isolated incident, it was part of a much bigger pattern. Throughout the trip, every outfit Meghan wore was being quietly uploaded to One-Off, the AI-powered fashion platform she is both an investor in and a commission earner from. We're talking about a percentage cut between 10 and 25% on every item sold through her profile. And her profile was active and being updated almost in real time as the tour unfolded. Children's hospital visit, outfits listed. Women's shelter appearance, outfits listed. Public engagements across Melbourne, Canberra, and Sydney. All of it monetized through affiliate links before the day was even over. The total estimated value of the wardrobe featured on that platform from just 4 days in Australia came in close to $100,000. One dress she wore while visiting a women's homeless shelter was listed at over $1,700. Think about that for a second. A visit to a shelter for vulnerable women.
Meghan Markle, she used her trip to meet Bondi Beach survivors in Australia to make money off of her outfits. So basically, she was doing what a lot of influencers do. You wear an outfit, okay? You go out there, you wear an outfit, and then you put it up on a website for 15% off, 20% off if you use a code or something like that. And so Meghan Markle, after meeting with Bondi Beach survivors, she was allegedly selling this outfit with an app that she's an investor in.
Turned into a shopping moment. Critics called it incongruous, others called it tone deaf. And honestly, a growing number of people called it something much stronger than that. But even all of that, the retreat chaos, the outfit listings, the rugby stadium photos, none of it hit as hard as what came out about the Bondi Beach visit, because that is the moment that truly crossed a line for most people watching this story unfold. On the final day of the tour, Meghan and Harry visited Bondi Beach to meet survivors and first responders connected to a terror incident that took place there in December 2025, an attack that resulted in 15 lives lost. By all accounts, the couple showed up, they listened, they spent genuine time with those affected. One first responder publicly said the visit was a mark of respect and that it was definitely appreciated. The people on the ground were grateful. The intention, at face value, appeared sincere. And then the outfit went up on One-Off, a $420 striped shirt, a $159 pair of jeans, an $895 cashmere sweater, all listed, all shoppable, all tied directly to images taken at one of the most emotionally raw stops of the entire trip. The internet did not hold back. One commentator went on record and called it sickening. A former Buckingham Palace staff member reportedly described the move as unbelievably short-sighted. Another public figure said bluntly that Meghan had clutched the hands of the victims, and within minutes, those outfits were available on this app, accusing her directly of using moments of grief and tragedy to push a personal brand. Those are serious words, and they spread everywhere fast. Once the backlash hit its peak, the platform quietly swapped out the original image, the one showing Meghan walking alongside first responders at the scene, and replaced it with a different photo of her stepping out of a Range Rover earlier that same day, wearing the exact same outfit but in a completely neutral setting. No statement, no apology, just a silent edit and hope that people would scroll past it. They didn't. Screenshots had already been taken and shared thousands of times. The internet had receipts, and it wasn't letting go. Now here is where the bigger picture really comes into focus, because all of this, the retreat, the outfit listings, the Bondi Beach controversy, was happening against the backdrop of something that had been in motion long before the plane even landed in Australia. Meghan's lifestyle brand, As Ever, had already quietly secured 12 trademarks across Australia, covering everything from skincare and candles to yoga gear, workshops, jewelry, and hospitality services. Those filings went in back in 2024 and were approved well before the trip was announced. So when critics called the whole visit a faux royale tour, disguised as a brand expansion, they weren't just throwing words around. The paper trail was right there. A celebrity PR specialist described the timing as strategic, noting that an in-person visit to a new market at this scale could generate exactly the kind of buzz needed to introduce a brand to a fresh audience. And that's exactly what it looked like to a growing number of observers. The retreat wasn't just a wellness weekend. The outfits weren't just fashion moments. The charity stops weren't just philanthropy. When you line it all up together, the trademarks, the affiliate links, the tightly controlled access, the royal title still being used throughout, it starts to look like a very carefully constructed business operation wearing the clothes of a goodwill tour. And the Australian public saw right through it. A poll conducted after the visit wrapped up surveyed over 1,700 Australians, and the numbers were absolutely devastating for the Sussex brand. A full 81% said the trip did not improve their view of the couple. 75% said it did not show a more positive side of Meghan, and 87%, nearly 9 out of 10 people, said the tour would do nothing to repair Harry's relationship with King Charles. Those are not the numbers of a successful image rehabilitation trip. That is a full-on rejection. An insider put it plainly, saying the visit was widely covered and clearly reached a large audience, but that exposure did not translate into greater support. If anything, it reinforced existing views rather than changing them. That line right there says it all. All the coverage, all the appearances, all the carefully managed moments, and the needle barely moved. For the people who already supported them, nothing changed. For the people who didn't, nothing changed either. And for the majority sitting somewhere in the middle, the commercial elements of the trip appear to have pushed more of them away than they pulled in. There was also the "call me Meg" moment, which became its own talking point. During the trip, Meghan encouraged people to skip the formal titles and just call her Meg. To some, it came across as warm and relatable. But to a much larger crowd, it landed as calculated. A source described it as a carefully curated attempt to project approachability that clashed hard with the very public reality of her wealth, her standards, and the premium prices attached to every event she showed up at. Asking people to just call you Meg, while charging nearly $3,200 for a brief appearance at a wellness retreat, is a contradiction that people were not willing to overlook. And through all of it, the half-empty retreat hall, the rugby stadium photos, the outfit listings, the Bondi Beach backlash, the brutal poll numbers, one question kept coming up over and over again in comment sections, in opinion pieces, and in conversations across Australia and beyond. Was any of this actually worth it? For the women who spent $2,000 on a weekend that lasted 30 minutes? Clearly not. For the survivors at Bondi Beach whose visit became a fashion moment? Absolutely not. For the Australian public who watched a 4-day tour generate more controversy than goodwill, the poll speaks for itself. Now, insiders close to the couple have pushed back on all of this. A source from their camp reportedly described the trip as a real-world trial of how their approach can function and claimed they believe it delivered the results they were hoping for. They are said to feel confident that the hybrid model, part philanthropy, part commercial, part royal adjacent, is both viable and sustainable as a long-term blueprint for how they operate. And maybe from inside their bubble, that reads as a win, but from the outside looking in, and from the perspective of over 1,700 Australians who answered that poll honestly, the story looks very different. Because at the end of the day, the retreat guests are still waiting on refunds. The Bondi Beach images are still circulating online. The trademark filings are still sitting in the Australian IP database. And the outfit links, even after the image swap, are still live on the platform. The evidence of what this trip was really about isn't going anywhere, and neither is the conversation around it. So now we want to hear directly from you, because your opinion on this genuinely matters. Do you think the women who attended that retreat deserve their money back? Was the Bondi Beach fashion listing a careless oversight or something far more deliberate? And do you think this Australia trip helped or hurt the Sussex brand in the long run? Drop everything you're thinking in the comments below. We read every single one and we want to know where you stand. If this video gave you something to think about, Do us a solid and smash that like button. It helps more people find this content and keeps these conversations going. Share this video with someone who needs to see the full picture, because this story has a lot of layers that most people haven't heard yet. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss what we drop next. We are always bringing you the stories that go deeper than the headlines. See you in the next one.